Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of the My Pocket Preceptor podcast. As you know, on this podcast, we're all about sharing experiences from amazing nurses where you can learn from new to practice nurses, from seasoned nurses. And we are all amazing nurses. And I'm so grateful to have my guest on tonight. She is amazing. And you guys are going to learn so much from her story. So this guest that we have today is Sekena. Sekena, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, please? And how has your journey been as a nurse?
Hi, everybody. It's Sekena. You got it. It's okay. It's okay. It's similar to Serena, like Serena Williams. Would put that K in there. It's Sekena, and
I'm so
that's
sorry.
that's okay. People get it mixed up all the time, but that's fine. It's Sekena, and I'm the creator and host of Hey Nurse, Let's Chat, where
Excellent.
basically the focus is on a little bit of nursing humor because why not? That keeps your heart light, and self-care and mindset and sisterhood. So those are my key
Wow.
focuses. And it's really about, just learning how to maintain faith and peace and balance throughout the hectic career choice that we all picked.
Yeah, that's
Nursing.
so amazing. And I can't wait to get into all of those because all of those are so amazing, especially with new nurses coming into the profession. We feel like I felt like I had to give all of myself. I had to drain myself in order to be a good nurse or those kinds of things. And it took me a long time to learn that I needed to pour back into myself. So I'm so glad that that's something that you're really promoting, really advocating. So how has your journey been as a nurse? What made you choose nursing as a career?
Well, I always say that nursing chose me first. I was sort of, the one thing about me that does shine a little bit in my personality that when I'm too serious, I suppress it. But I was a bit of a clown in school.
Really?
I always tried to find, the humor in everything. Sometimes maybe not appropriate things, but hey, as a nurse, you have to learn how to find the humor and even
Yeah.
the sad things, right? And so long story short, I took a CNA course straight out of high school, and this
Mm-hmm.
sort of led to the next thing. And my patients sort of encouraged me to become a nurse. So I
Wow.
was a CNA, I was hands on. I then became a medical assistant, and I loved that element of the clinical side of things and
Mm-hmm.
dealing with patients from that perspective. But my goal really was to become a nurse. I went to the LPN program, and the rest was history. I became an LPN, and my life has gotten better ever since.
Excellent. It's such a great choice, especially for these schools. I have it where you can earn your certification or learn skills like right outside of high school that you can get into the workforce. And also just your patients advocating for you to say, hey, you're really good at this, and seeing the light in you, that really makes a lot of difference whenever the patients like say, hey, you're a great nurse or you could be good at this particular role. So
Yeah.
that's excellent. That's excellent. So, a lot of your brand is around definitely promoting self care. And how have you find that with being an LPN? How have you find other people to be with regards to being an LPN? Do you have any negative interactions with different nurses? I mean, it's a really touchy subject. And my thing is, we're all nurses. We are all
Right.
equal. We are all valuable. Like, there's no hierarchy here. You know what I mean? The only hierarchy is your ego, and you need to check that. For the
Got it. So yeah, I will say this. So quick backstory is that I started my platform with the mission to talk mindset, self care, and sisterhood to women.
Mhm.
Specifically Black and brown women, but to women. And so it initially was called Hey Sis, Let's Chat. And I always had intention for me, my personal goal was to advance in the
Mhm.
profession. And
Mhm.
so I did want the LPN route to be the first part of the stepping stone. And I had veered off and done some other things and made some different choices and wasn't really able to get to the RN thing as fast as I wanted to.
Mhm.
But in that pursuit, I definitely started to realize that I myself wasn't as confident in my role. And because of that, I oftentimes, when I started the platform, shied away from even speaking to nurses initially, because in my
Mm-hmm.
mind, I didn't see a lot of representation of LPNs, especially in the online space. So
Right.
I kind of shied away from it. And then through some fasting and prayer and coaches, they kind of kept coming back to like, why don't you talk to nurses? Like, what is this? And I had to realize that I actually had a limiting belief, that I was feeling as though I couldn't speak because I was an LPN, which was quite
Mm-hmm.
ridiculous, right? And so I
Yeah.
say all that to say I embraced the fact that, we all move at our own timing. And I say
Right.
the word own race, own pace, and that it's not a
Mm-hmm.
race in this life. And then I start to look at all the things that God has really blessed me with as a result of saying yes to nursing and using the
Right.
LPN license, right? So I also have another t-shirt that says I broke a generational curse by becoming a nurse. And I started to realize that I was being a little bit ungrateful with
Mm.
the what I had in my hands. And
Wow.
so the word I got back was use what you have. And so I started to incorporate the LPN piece, and I started to get a lot of feedback from a lot of nurses who said, "Oh my God, what you just said in that video was what I needed to hear. I felt the same
Right.
way, and then there was a lot of LPNs who said, listen, I don't have any intention on going back to school. And
Right.
I should be respected and valued as well, because I go hard. I go hard.
Yes.
We don't like the idea of running circles. No one should be running circles around anyone. But a lot of LPNs did feel that they weren't, valued and respected in the space. And it just gave me more confidence to just say, no, no, I'm valued here, and I'm
Right.
needed. So a lot of my
Right.
platform is specific towards LPN pride, and just welcoming new LPNs, as well
Mm-hmm.
as celebrating the seasoned ones that have been in the game. I do consider myself seasoned. It's almost
Right.
15 years. It's almost 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm a
That's
seasoned nurse.
amazing. Yes, absolutely.
I love it.
With so much value, there's so many gems that you talked about there, especially with using what you have. And so I think a lot of times if we really focus in on being grateful for where we are, we'll just find so much value there. There's such an abundance of opportunities. There's an abundance of ways that we can add value. And oftentimes, if I'm going to be honest, we don't really find the value in where we are. We think it's somewhere else, right? For example, even with nursing, um, I wrote a book, and it's being processed right now, and it's really showing people like what it takes to be a nurse practitioner and what to expect when you become a nurse practitioner. Because a lot of times I found some of my clients and students are just like, well, I'm just going to go back and be an NP, but they don't realize what it entails. And we think the value is going to come from like gaining that particular metric, and then you find out no, and then they're like, oh well, now you need to go for your DMP, and you're
You need
like,
more.
golly.
You need more. You
Yes.
can't breathe before they're like, "What's next? What's
Right.
next?"
So
And
that's
I am
very
blessed to,
valuable.
yeah, I'm blessed to be around nurses. First of all, I work with all different kinds of nurses, right? And then I have
Mm-hmm.
friends that have advanced, and so I am around people who secretly, to tell the truth, they are advancing as far as their career is concerned, but they
Mm-hmm.
don't. There's a missing thing there for some of them, because like you said, it's always what's next.
Mm-hmm.
So that
Right.
taught me that what I was hearing from what I know to be the voice of God, saying appreciate what you have. And
Right.
that's really my message. And
Right.
that appreciate what's in your hand while going for what it is that you want.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, if it's a goal of yours to be a DNP, if it's a goal of yours to be a PA or whatever, that's not what we're saying. That is your goal, and that is what you're working towards, like self
Absolutely.
actualization. I think the problem happens whenever we're listening to the voices of people outside saying, you should do this, you should do that, and then
Absolutely.
thinking we're going to find and enhancement and those kinds of things. Definitely the nurse practitioner role has afforded me a lot of opportunities, but just nursing in general can afford you like so many opportunities. You can open up businesses, home care businesses, group homes. There's so many things that we can do with our expansive knowledge as a nurse.
Absolutely.
So that's
Yes,
wonderful.
yes, yes.
How can you talk about like the resiliency that you need to have being a nurse, especially working in these um, areas that require a lot of like patient load, for example, like working with 30 patients to one nurse or something like that? What is the resiliency that you would tell us that we need to have being a nurse?
Oh boy. I think I'm glad to see though. Like I don't. We're millennials, and
Mm-hmm.
here comes the Gen Z behind us, and they are just simply not having it. They're just simply not about to be used up and spit out. But
Yeah.
if you are a millennial and you sort of identify with Gen X ideals like myself, I kind of came in the game um, when I was younger, and I would say old school values, right? And so, yes, you did see the nurses that focused on being altruistic, right? Is that the correct word?
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
it was all about, not that it shouldn't always be all about patient care, but it was all about almost how much can you sacrifice of yourself to prove that you're a good nurse. So I
Right.
think the new conversation is that all of us are recognizing that that's not it, right?
Right.
That you have to fill your own cup first so that you can then
Mm-hmm.
give overflow. And
Absolutely.
so as it relates to resilience, you cannot be resilient if you are not prioritizing patient number one, which is
Mm-hmm.
you, and
Yes.
just pouring back into yourself. And when I say that, I'll just say we do a lot of talk about the superficial elements of self-care, right? So softeners era is, includes, the pedicures, the manicures, the massages. But when I say self-care, I'm speaking about the true deep spiritual work.
Mm-hmm.
The what we just talked about a minute ago, the knowing that you are enough before you
Absolutely.
add anything else to your name,
Mm-hmm.
outside of being a mom, right? Because what
Mm-hmm.
are you? Oh, well, I'm a mom, I'm a wife. Outside of being a mom
Yeah.
and a wife, outside
Right.
of being a nurse, your true
Right.
identity is who you are. And
Correct.
I think that once you shore that up, right, get the
Mm-hmm.
foundation set there, then you are resilient, right? We're not trying to be
Absolutely.
strong anymore. We're trying to be resilient.
Resilient.
There's a difference.
Yes.
So yeah,
Oh, that is amazing. Yeah. Just affirming to yourself that I am enough. And even if you don't believe it when you're saying it, keep saying
speak,
it and speak it,
absolutely.
and it will absolutely come true. One of the things I always said whenever I was going into my shift, usually work night shift. I resigned from the bedside about 6 months ago. Um,
Nice.
Thank you. And so I would say, tonight is a good night. I'm having a good night, right? And then when I couldn't find something or something was really challenging, I would say, like, I'm really smart. I know I'm going to figure this out. Like, you
Absolutely.
literally have to tell yourself that
Positive
because,
self-talk. People
absolutely.
take that lightly. And that
Does
see,
your
so
program go into that?
yes, so I have a new program that I'm working on, almost done. But the
Mm-hmm.
first portion of that program will be the affirmation and prayer book, 31 days, because I wanted to keep it
Wonderful.
simple, and I want it to be something that you could take. So if you obviously 31 days, you could repeat it, right? You can repeat it every month. You can do it once a quarter. That's the goal
Mm,
there. But so it's a 31-day prayer and affirmation journal that sort of focuses on using the power of your words and decoding the myth that what you say isn't that serious, right? Or
right.
what you speak doesn't really hold power because our words are seeds. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times we get trapped in, especially if you work in certain nursing environments, where as soon as people walk in, before they had that coffee, they are already on the complaint train. That's what I
Right.
call it, the complaint train.
Yes.
And they're already, and if you're not careful, you'll get into that vibration of complaining,
Absolutely.
right? And then the family members and management, and they want all these things from you, and you have not established a routine where you are learning to pour into yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
that's really what the book is. It's a system, and it's just trying to find a way to incorporate simple practices that remind us to tap in with ourselves, our mental health,
Right.
our spiritual foundation, and tap in with God, even throughout the
Absolutely.
day, even on the shift. So yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Prayer is absolutely the way to that's for me personally. And everyone's interpretation of prayer may be different, but just tapping into a higher source, tapping into something that you know is there to guide you and lead you, and knowing that it's protecting you and taking care of you. I think you would be doing yourself a disservice if you didn't use that as a form to help you. So that is amazing. I love the idea that you have about self-care. And again, it's pouring back into yourself. So whatever that looks like for you.
Amen.
Wonderful. Amen. So what was your routine, or what is your routine now that when you go in, so you don't get sucked into that complaint
It's
train?
that vortex of,
It is a vortex. My
it's a
goodness.
vortex. It's strong.
Yeah, it is.
Strong hold. It's a strong force. And
Mm-hmm.
so with that said, is that you have to be equally as vigilant and repetitive
Mm-hmm.
about making sure that you create that time. So I'll say this. Anytime I don't reset, and within the book there will be a challenge that's called the Reset and Rejuvenation Challenge. Okay, and so it's a
Mm-hmm.
5 day challenge. It sort of puts us in a mindset for just 5 days, 15 minutes a day, to
Oh,
just
wow.
dedicating to resetting your head, right? Resetting
Mm-hmm.
your mind. But I was saying that how anytime I find myself not taking even 5 minutes, like you said, to affirm myself before I walk in, sometimes you get in, you can feel the tension on the unit, you can see the
Right.
mess that's left, you pick up energies from everybody else, right? And
Yeah,
if I don't even
absolutely.
walk off within the shift and take that break,
Mm-hmm.
um even if it's just to the bathroom, to
Mm-hmm.
look into my own eyes and say, you got this,
Yes.
you're okay, you can
Mm-hmm.
manage this, you are equipped. And then before I lay down, decompressing, right, like really like pulling away from work, because I am a night nurse, so I come
Mm-hmm.
in during this bright sun,
Yeah.
and so it's a lot to reprogram myself to even get into a restful state so that
Right.
I can sleep, because a lot of times we don't realize that sleep is so rejuvenating, and it's actually,
Absolutely.
it's a heavy spiritual practice that we actually take lightly. We actually
That's
brag about how
true.
little sleep we have, and we're not recognizing that we're pulling away from our source by doing that. Now,
Mm-hmm.
this is coming from a night nurse who does still sacrifice a lot of my sleep. So
Yeah.
I have to be very intentional. And so those are some of the intentional things I do. I make sure that I fit, even if it's 5 minutes throughout the shift,
Mm-hmm.
before the shift, and before going to sleep. Very intentional.
Mm.
And I get into that too with the the course and the system, because if you don't,
Burnout is
burn
inevitable.
out,
Burnout is
isn't it?
already inevitable, but you'll burn out
Yep.
faster and more
Yep.
ferociously if you do not reset yourself. And so, yeah, that is so amazing, especially taking the time to just decompress. I think it's so great. And just recognizing that practice. A lot of the times, new to practice, persons, nurses in the hospital settings, or even when you transition to different roles, being a nurse practitioner, being a PA, whatever it is, it's going to be a time of transition. And a lot of the times the clients are like, I just need to know how to manage my time. Like, you also need to learn how to manage the time for yourself. How do I manage Tanya, the person? How am I managing her?
How are you managing me? How do I manage me?
Me. How am I
Yeah.
managing me? Because once I manage me, I literally manage so many other areas.
It's
And the ones
true.
that I cannot, like the weather and global
Hmm.
warming, I just lift up
Hmm.
to my higher source
That's
because
what you
I
have
can't do
to do.
anything anyway.
It's true. You have to know how to delegate even those things,
Oh
so
my
that you're not
gosh,
taking
yes.
on that mental stress of trying to save the world, especially as nurses who have a
Mm-hmm.
sort of healing complex.
Right,
In a sense
right.
that, yes, we are called
Mm-hmm.
to be healers, to stand in that space, but we also have to recognize what we can and cannot do,
Yeah.
and that's important.
Absolutely. And I had to heal myself in so many ways as a nurse, going in. I think I got pulled into the career from my aunts who were nurses. We're from the Caribbean. So, you come in, it's a great profession because you are able to earn a great income for your family. But I got into it from growing up around them and seeing that it was a good career choice. But to be honest, I had to do a lot of healing myself, healing childhood traumas, healing the need to please people all the time, healing
Yes.
like the guilt over explaining. I'm just like, I had to do that healing my own self, you know?
Yes.
And then when I did that on myself, it reflected in my nursing life. Like now, in the sense of like setting boundaries with my patients, I will not allow you to talk to me any kind of way. No, this is not
Absolutely.
what's going on. Again, with the self-care, making sure I go to eat, making sure I go use the bathroom before I put
Yes.
the 10th patient on the bedpan and I hadn't gone
Yep.
to use the restroom, you know, saying to someone, just walking away from those negative persons who will suck you in and speak negatively over your assignment, speak negatively over, oh, they always give me the hard assignment, they always give me this, and just walk away. And the
It's
other
true.
key thing I learned is be very mindful of what you say, because people are listening. And whether you realize it or not, they're listening. And you never know the
It-
carriers that will carry what you said and what you did not say
News carriers.
to other people.
Paper boys and paper girls.
I'm telling you, they're everywhere, guys.
Newspaper.
They're everywhere.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but
um,
you just said a thing. It's how you balance. Like we don't recognize how much our personal lives weigh in on
mhm.
almost like, there's a burnout meter.
Yes.
And you need to know how close you are to that burnout level. And a
Mhm.
lot of times, just recognizing that. So managing your personal life so that you're more effective as a nurse.
Absolutely. And then conversely, managing your work. You know, if your manager is always calling you to pick up overtime, you just say, hey, unfortunately, I'm not able to pick it up. I made obligations with my family, i.e., myself.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm not able to come in today, and just setting those boundaries and knowing that it's okay. Like knowing that it is okay.
Yeah.
I think as nurses, we're taught to be analytical, do things the right way. It's programmed, the five
Hmm.
rights. Obviously, we need that. But for me, it was like I just wanted to be right and I wanted to be liked. And it's not until I healed myself from those that I was
Yes.
able to be okay.
Be okay with not being liked.
Exactly.
Be okay with someone being upset with you or not being happy about your decision. For me, that's a very heavy thing as it relates to picking up hours. I mean, once I made the commitment to do night shift,
Mm-hmm.
I made it very clear, and it's very rare. My job laughed because recently I actually picked up a shift and they literally wanted to know what was wrong with me because they were like, what? She's got to be in debt. Something happened. Something happened because what made her pick up a shift? And that's how much I do not play with my days off.
Yeah.
I need, you know, that moment to rejuvenate. I need it. So I play not with that. And, you have aunts. I mean, I call some of my work besties my aunts and uncles. They're the ones who always encourage me. But,
Mm-hmm.
the older ones, they didn't really do that. They picked up hours, they racked them up, they raked them up, and it was all about how much could I get.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times it was to their detriment. So I just think
Right.
that we are learning. We're
Right.
learning.
Right. Absolutely. And as you're saying, even towards mentors, you made a really great point about finding people on your floor who will guide you, and then understanding to also be discernful, use discernment.
I get it. Having that discernment. Don't abandon that.
Do not, because it's not only age that comes, that you should use that as a metric for judging someone's advice or perspective. It could still be
Absolutely.
flawed.
Absolutely. You just said a thing because I realize now that I'm considered an OG in the game, right? But I try to give sound advice. But I
Mm-hmm.
also am a person who tells you in a minute, you have to make these decisions for yourself.
Right.
What is best for you? I always get the question, should I be an LPN? Should I be an RN? I mean, naturally, if you're a younger woman, I want everybody to go straight to the top. Like, I want you to
Mm-hmm.
go straight to the top. But I
Right.
also recognize that that would be a little hypocritical, seeing that some people do need to take baby steps or take smaller steps or enter in a different way. And so I never
Mm-hmm.
give anybody an answer in the sense that what I want is for people to trust their own inner voice.
Right.
That's the biggest. And also you touched on something else, which is a big thing. My platform, I dedicate time to, and I've gotten into trouble about it, which is speaking about nurse bullies. Okay, speaking about mean girls in nursing.
Yeah.
It's a deal. It's a thing. It's a real thing. And so
Unfortunately.
I am working on sharing tools and tricks on how to manage that in a respectful way so that you don't get in trouble,
Right.
and how to navigate the scene. Because
Mm-hmm.
when we talk about things like the older people, you would assume and hope that the
Mm-hmm.
OG nurses would be nurturing
Right.
and would be a resource. And in a lot of
Right.
cases, they're not. In
Mm-hmm.
a lot of cases, they're not. And also, that comes from um, the ego, where even as an OG nurse, there are nurses that are coming out of school that know some things that I don't know. And
Yeah.
I'm never wanting to be the type of nurse that knows so much that I can't learn. But I
Right.
also think that that's a part of what nursing, like, we need to be respectful of those things. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're always the teacher and the student.
Absolutely.
And we have enough on us, right? From the industry itself and
Mm-hmm.
the CEOs that are pushing down more work or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if you're at bedside. So it's
Mm-hmm.
the thing that we can control is how we handle each other. So a big part of my platform is focusing on that.
Absolutely. That is so necessary. And as you're saying, you have to be strategic and know how to play the game, or they, and it's not any one particular person, is they
Mm-hmm.
will use it against you. So learn how to navigate accordingly, as you're saying.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
because they
So
say
you sound
nurses
like,
eat.
yeah, and it's so sad, but a lot of us have been, propagating this whole era where we're treating everyone equally and everyone has value. Again, that comes from an internal perspective. That comes from an abundant mindset. If you are
Absolutely.
knowing that there's enough for everyone, there's more than enough for everyone, then you won't be afraid to share your knowledge, or you won't feel intimidated to, share what you know. So as you're saying on your platform, you talk about mindset. Can you go a little bit into that as it regards to the bullying and the insecure and the scarcity mindset that can be faced with new nurses?
Yeah, you just said a lot right there, because that's really what it boils down to. It's fear
Mm-hmm.
based
Yeah.
and it's scarcity. And that's what I mean about, like, personal development. Personal and spiritual development is
Mm-hmm.
something that I don't think gets stressed enough. And um in doing that kind of work, you learn, like you said, that it takes nothing for me. What they say about a flame, it takes nothing for me to give you some light, and you
Right.
take yours and you give it to the next person, right? It doesn't put my light out, it doesn't dim my light by sharing what I know. And it
Right.
also doesn't make me incompetent per se, because I don't know something and
Right.
because you have to show me, right? Because you can take any of us and throw us in another field and we won't know exactly what we're doing. You're going to be a student somewhere. And
Exactly.
so I try to lead with that. I
Mm-hmm.
try to remember what it feels like to be the new girl on the block and the first day at work. Um, and I don't care what degree you come out with in nursing, unless you have had that experience, you are new when you walk
Yeah.
in. And a lot of times, you just need that encouragement. And so, for me, that's really the focus with my platform is abundance.
Yes.
Once you understand that, there's nothing that I have to be afraid of.
Mm-hmm.
There's room for all of us. And once we know that, we'll be more powerful when we stick together with that mindset,
Right.
right?
Right, absolutely. And then just tapping into, if you find that you are having an abundant mindset and other people around you aren't, they will fall off. Just get yourself out of that environment, because
The
it's
vibration.
power,
Yeah,
the
it doesn't
vibration.
align. It doesn't align.
I'm
So, right.
telling
So
you.
I want a group of women that are mastering their vibration.
Yes,
And that doesn't mean that you don't fall off. That doesn't mean that you're no longer human. But you also remember that you are a spiritual being having a human experience, right?
mm-hmm,
So once
mm-hmm.
you realize that, then you operate from a different place, a different mindset. So that's really what
Absolutely.
I'm realizing, is that because I am a bit of an OG nurse, is that there are newer nurses coming in, and that's probably where my target is. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
open to everything, but I realize that there's so many new people coming in, and some of us have been in the game for a while. We're the OG ones. So
Right.
we've got to be what it is that we needed, which is the
Absolutely.
nurturers. And that doesn't mean that there can't be correction. It just
Right.
means that it needs to come in a certain way.
Oh my goodness. So yes, absolutely. I'm on that same alignment with you with regards to like new nurses, empowering them. That's what this platform is
Mm-hmm.
for. What's just creating a space, like give them a voice and let them know that they're valuable. And so that's what we're all promoting. Is that you are valuable, and you will carry that into your nursing career, whether that is choosing the job that's the right fit for you, choosing the correct uh, hourly rate, and knowing that you are more than your hourly rate. It's just
Absolutely.
a metric that is being used in one area of your life. Like, you're not the number that you're getting paid every hour. You're so much more than that. And that's just really important. Um, so in closing, we're going to talk a little bit about finances and money. How have you found that to be for you with nursing? Do you find that you use it as a tool to really help you reach your goals? Or when you became a nurse, did you like spend all your money? I know I spent it and I bought this, like the Michael Kors purses and, the satchels and all of that. I was just like, oh my gosh.
I've actually been on both sides of the coin.
Me
So just
too.
a quick background about me is that one of my messages is that I broke a generational curse by becoming a nurse. And I say that because I sort of came from humble beginnings.
Mhm.
I kind of grew up in what people would say is the hood,
Mhm.
even though it was in a good town, but still, I grew up in the hood, and I came from a little bit of the have nots, and I'm very
Mhm.
open with that story.
Mhm.
And I found a lot of freedom through work and
Mhm.
through independence and
Right.
through getting my own bag. Is that what they call it?
Yes.
And so
Right.
um, I was able to get what I perceived, because it's all about perception too, right? So that's another thing,
Mhm.
like social media, especially. Let's speak to the fact that, I love the fact that there's transparency about
Mhm.
pay and transparency about finances. But I also think that it leaves room for, once again, comparison and
Yes.
comparisonitis.
Yes.
Comparisonitis.
It's an
It's a
infection that needs to be
disease.
treated.
It's an addiction, and it needs to be cured. And
That's
so,
right.
and so what happens is people are constantly doing that thing.
Mhm.
But for me, I have personal goals, and
Mhm.
I wanted to, for instance, I wanted my kids to grow up in a home, and I was an LPN before I was 20. I think I might have been 26,
Oh
and my
wow.
mission was to get a house. And I
Yeah.
was able to, through the avenue of nursing, do that. So I cleaned up my credit, and I splurged a
Mhm.
little. I splurged a little. I like to do some of that, but I also
You
like to
know.
balance it.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's been a blessing for me to learn. And it's also afforded me, like, at one point I had was able to open a home-based childcare business. That's actually what I did with a lot of my
Oh
time.
wow.
Yeah.
Please
So while I was
share.
raising
That's
my kids,
amazing.
yeah. So I'm gonna need a whole podcast of my own, which I am working on,
Yes.
to really get into all the lessons, and all of them were not pretty. I will say that they weren't.
That's that's amazing.
Because I got into it, initially to supplement my income and to keep my children close to home. And so I
Mhm.
started home-based daycare, and I was able to keep my last two kids home. And then it flourished into more, because then I was helping my community. And then I had to learn business very quickly. And then I thought that I should have the cheapest prices. And then that
Mm.
sort of created its own issues. But I say all that to say, the good news was that nursing afforded me the ability to have that business, and for my kids to
Absolutely.
benefit from that business. And that's what they remember. They remember going to mommy school until they were,
Oh,
of school age. So that was what
that's
I was able to do with the
amazing.
license. And I will always cherish the lessons that I got from that experience.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing. That's very beautiful.
Yeah.
Very beautiful. So do you have any way for them to contact you? What's the best way if someone wants to reach out to you? If someone wants to learn more of the products and services that you have, what's the best way that they can get in touch with you?
Okay. So my business email is Sekena at heysis-chat.com no, it's Sekena at heysis-chat. But I'm really, really active right now on two platforms. They're not mine, but I value them so much. And that is Hey Nurse Let's Chat on Instagram and Hey Nurse Let's Chat on TikTok. And I'm building my YouTube channel. So please subscribe.
Oh,
Because
yes.
I always wanted to be a YouTuber when I grew up.
What did you say? I always
And
wanted to say what?
be a YouTuber when I grew up.
Oh my God. Me too, girl. Me too.
Yeah, I always wanted to be a YouTuber in the sense that I always value video-based platforms because it's just, you get to know people that way, know, like, and trust them. So yeah, follow me on Hey Nurse Let's Chat.
I'm doing that right now.
Platforms.
That's what I'm doing. Because if I don't do it in the moment, mom brain kicks in or something else kicks in.
That's mom brain. And that's mom nurse.
Okay,
brain.
I subscribe. Okay, perfect. I'm subscribed already. Okay, excellent. So guys, go ahead and.
So yeah, Hey Nurse Let's Chat, all platforms.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so guys, look in the description where you'll see a list of the products and services that Sekena has available. Again, this has been so informative, so great to see that you have really used your license to just transform the life and create the life that you want for you and your family. And you're empowering other nurses along the way to make sure that we pour back into ourselves, to understand that we have control of our mindset and we have control over how our life is reflected back to us. So thank you so very much for your time and for sharing your knowledge with us. Go ahead, guys, and make sure you like and subscribe this channel, and go ahead and go and subscribe to Sekena's channel and get more information on how to continue to be amazing, amazing women and men. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you.
My pleasure. I'll see you guys in the next video.